Hello and welcome to another video from EarnPed.com. I'm Stevie B, happy to have you all with me today as I am on hour 23 of Mini Mayhem. That's right, I've been going at it hard the past 23 hours and this is probably the last hour I'm going to do, so I wanted to go ahead and get it on video for you guys. So Mini Mayhem was announced the other day. It only ran from May 11th till May 15th. It ends at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is going to be here in about just over 3 hours. And I wanted to make this video because this is such a good example of all the things that I try and point out to you guys, especially to newer players who are new to Entropia, to get them used to how playing the game and having game knowledge really can benefit you. So the first time we tried Mini Mayhem, we did it on Crystal Palace. And it was not the greatest event. It was very difficult to farm tokens. It was a very slow grind. And it was very expensive because Crystal Palace is a taxed land area. So had I not owned a whole bunch of Crystal Palace shares, it would not have been ideal. And you guys, notice over here, notice how many weapons I'm looting all of a sudden. Because it's quite a few. So it was an okay event, but it was not the greatest. Then we tried Mini Mayhem again on Planet Calypso with Argonauts, and again it was an okay thing, but it was really more or less if you were already hunting Argonauts, then it was something for you. If you weren't already hunting Argonauts, it was probably something you were going to stay away from. So Mini Mayhem is not like regular Mayhem at all. Mini Mayhem is literally just they add Mayhem tokens and rare Mayhem tokens to the loot pool of certain mobs for a small amount of time. That is literally it. And that makes it very difficult because if you're not already invested in Mayhem, or if you're not already going after that specific mob or a specific mission chain, it really doesn't make it worth doing, since Mayhem tokens are account bound and you can only use them to get high-end weapons out of the Mayhem token trader. However, even if you only have a small amount of Mayhem tokens, you can get pills out of the Mayhem token vendor, and then you can sell the pills. So even a new player who is only grinding out, 5, 10, 15, 20 Mayhem tokens over the course of a Mini Mayhem can at least trade them in for a couple of pills they can use, or they can sell those pills to other people for markup. I've had to explain to several players today that you are going to lose money playing the game. That is just how it works. Mindark is not going to pay you to play the game. If they did, they would have no way to keep the lights on. They would have no way to keep the servers up. The game would go down. So we know that we're going to lose money doing in-game activities like hunting, mining, and crafting. The question is, are we able to get the markup loot out of the loot pool that we want? And then are we able to sell it to other players? Does it have demand? Does it have markup? So that we can use that profit that we make off other players, providing for what they need for their in-game activities, in order to overcompensate for that loss. So I came to do these drones for Mini Mayhem because this was accidentally one of the best events they've done. They didn't do this on purpose. Mini Mayhem this time around was any robot on Planet Calypso had Mayhem tokens added to the loot pool, and they wanted us going after those big robots that hopefully will drop those 20th anniversary items once in a blue moon. What ended up happening is I instantly thought to myself, wait, if you go to Orthos Oilfield, the new starter PvP area by Camp Icarus that you can go to hunt low-level drones, these are the lowest level drones in the game. They only have 30 HP, which makes them very easy to take out rather quickly, as you can see. I've killed over 30,000 of them in the past 23 hours. And super easy to take out, and that should mean the tokens are super easy to farm. That is not how Mindark planned it. It was just a happy coincidence, and that is where game knowledge comes in handy. Why would I go after an HP with a mob with several thousand HP to try and get Mayhem tokens, whenever I can go after a mob with 30 HP and get Mayhem tokens? So while everybody else was out doing the bigger robots, I have stayed exclusively at Orthos Oilfield, taking out over 30,000 of these level 2 prototype drones that only have 30 HP. And it has been gangbusters. So first of all, let me explain why I'm willing to do this, because again, this is a concept that a lot of new players are having a hard time grasping. I have been tracking my results the entire time using Loot Nanny. Okay, every single run that I have done has come in between 93 to 98% return. I am hovering right at religiously 95% TT returns. I am going to lose money playing the game. I understand that. I am going to lose some amount of money every time I pull this trigger on this here gun. That is how the game works, because guess what? Mindark has to be able to pay the bills in order to keep the servers up and keep the lights on. That only makes sense. So why would I be doing that? Why would I be trying to get in as many hours as I can, knowing I'm only going to get 93 to 98% returns, and it's going to average out at like 95%? Well, that's because I'm after the stuff in the loot that gives us markup. Now, let's look at what I was after first, and then I will explain why new players often come to Orthos Oilfield even outside of Mini Mayhem. So, in the course of the past 23 hours, I have looted 406 Mayhem tokens. I've also looted 6 Unreal tokens. Now, I'm not going to talk about Codex rewards and meta rewards. That would be too much for one video. But needless to say, I did get through a stage of meta, I got through a couple of stages of Codex, and I just looted another Mayhem token. Woot woot! So, I very quickly, doing a little bit of experimentation when I very first got here, figured out that these Mayhem tokens tend to drop not based on PED cycled, but they tend to drop based on kill count. Now, it's pseudo-random, but after 30,000 kills, I'm sitting at almost exactly 1 Mayhem token for every 75 kills. So sometimes I will get them back to back and then not get one for 150 kills, but after 30,000 kills, I think it's safe to say that I'm going to get 1 Mayhem token for roughly every 75 kills that I do. So, those 406 Mayhem tokens are worth so much more than what I have spent grinding them with this event. The cost of grinding them at this mini Mayhem at level 30 HP mobs, level 2 mobs with only 30 HP, is so much cheaper than the cost of grinding a Mayhem token during an actual Mayhem. So I've been able to get them for a fraction of what they're actually worth. Now, the value is not going to go down just because of this mini Mayhem. It is far too short of an event. I can only grind out a couple hundred. I can't grind out 20, 30, 40,000. I can't grind out enough to really affect the value of the Mayhem tokens in any meaningful way. However, what I can do is by grinding out as many of these Mayhem tokens as I possibly can now, I can add them to my already ridiculously large stack of Mayhem tokens that I have been saving for several years now, and I can use this lower cost to dollar cost average the overall cost of my Mayhem tokens that I have total, which works out for me amazingly. And just got another Mayhem token. Woo woo, loving this. They're literally dropping like rain. This is almost as good as the drop rate in a regular Mayhem if you don't account for the daily mission and the actual mission chain. If you're looking at just the number of tokens per hour that you can loot in a Mayhem instance just from the creatures, this is very comparable to that, but without the ridiculous cost of actually going through a full-blown Mayhem, which is why this is such a great opportunity. So for me, just the Mayhem tokens made this worth it. Just the value of those Mayhem tokens is worth exceedingly more than whatever I have lost in that couple of percent that I lose in TT value. However, in addition to the Mayhem tokens, I've also got 6 Unreal tokens. Obviously, those Unreal tokens are currently going for about 15 to 17 PED each. I've seen them go for a little bit higher than that even. So there is definitely a profit that has been made. Now, I would love to get a rare token. That has not yet happened, and it probably will not, because it is called a rare token for a reason. It's about more than just how many robots you kill. It is about sheer blind luck. And as of yet, that has not happened. I would love it if that was to happen live on this video. Now, let's look at other reasons that you might come here as a newer player or a lower level player who is trying to get their skills up. First of all, keep in mind that skills have value, and new players that have low skills, the system is going to reward you with loot and skills. And since those skills have value, you're probably not going to have the best returns when you're first starting, because you've got to get those skills up, right? So skills are definitely a part of the calculation of your return, And I think we overlook that almost universally, even more experienced players, because we're looking at the value of the loot. We're really not looking at the value of the skills all the time. So keep that in mind. But new players do come here because these robots do drop oil. Now, used to, when they very first started this rig, this was supposed to be like a smaller version of Ashy Rig. This is a PvP zone, so you can be killed by another player. In fact, Laura Spade killed me earlier as soon as I logged in. And he was like, I couldn't help it, I just had to. Which, you know, I had the same thought, but I'm too focused on getting the Mayhem tokens. So, big shout out to Laura Spade. Go check out his channel too. But needless to say, it didn't work, because instead of people fighting over the oil, which is something that would have been acceptable to Mindark, everybody more or less just made a line and took turns getting the free oil. Well, again, that doesn't make Mindark any money. If you're actively shooting each other, killing each other in a PvP area, even though it's non-lootable, at least you're shooting, and that means Mindark makes money. If nobody's shooting, if everybody's just taking the free stuff off the ground, that's like going into Walmart and nobody actually buying anything, just taking everything off the shelf. How long is Walmart going to stay in business? Not very long, right? So Walmart's not going to let you do that for very long. So what they did is, when they figured this out, they made it where the oil does not spawn on the ground like it does at Ashy. The oil is actually in the robots, so you have to come kill the robots to get the oil. So in killing the robots, you will get a ton of shrapnel, just like with anything else in this game. And the shrapnel, yes, it does convert to ammo at a free 1% bonus, so that's always good. However, like I said, a lot of people come for the oil. Just recently, I've been able to farm 13.4 pet of oil in the past hour or so. I keep having to make runs to storage in the trade terminal. Whenever I get too much oil and it gets too heavy to carry, I've just been using my refiner that I carry on me and refining it into actual fuel for a vehicle, and then I just keep refueling my quad. I can actually open my inventory, I can go to my quad, and I can just hit refuel, and then I can just drag and drop my refined oil in here, and it puts it in my quad, reduces my carry weight, and I don't have to jump back to storage, I don't have to jump back to all the terminals, because it is a nice little 800 meters from here. And it takes time away from killing these bots, which takes time away from the Mayhem tokens. But what else do these robots drop other than just shrapnel, which gives you a free 1%, and oil, which can come in very handy, and in big batches can be sold for 100.5%, 101, 101.5%. In smaller batches, if you're willing to take the risk and pay the extra auction fees, can sell for up to 104, 104.5% for refined oil. Again, this is something that it's kind of tricky, because you've either got to sell oil in big batches to crafters for low markup, but a pretty much guaranteed small profit, or you've got to try and sell it in much smaller batches and potentially pay more in auction fees and take the risk of auctions not actually selling. They just end without a buyer. So that is kind of a personal preference type deal. So why else would we come here? Well, these robots have something rather unique about them. Sorry guys, I'm trying to eat and do this at the same time because I haven't ate all day. So these robots every now and then will drop starter weapons, and they will drop starter amps. So if you're using that TT gear and you're still trying to get to level 15 laser hit and laser damage, so you can start using the limited Armatrix line and start climbing the Armatrix ladder every 5 levels, that can get kind of boring. You might want to change it up. And one of the ways you can do that is with Rubio's, Azuro's, B101 amps, and ISIS weapons. So if we go to my weapons tab, this is all the stuff that I've looted in probably the past 45 minutes. So you'll notice Azuro's, Rubio's, mainly Rubio's and Azuro's. Every now and then you get an ISIS thrown in there, and B101 amps. I've actually been saving the B101 amps over the past probably 12 hours. This is just the past 12 hours. The first 12 hours I just TT'd everything. I've probably TT'd well over 200 ped of new player weapons and new player amps in the past 23 hours. The only reason I saved the B101 amps is I realized that they do have a much lower drop rate than they used to. So they might actually come in handy for newer players. Now, the problem with these things is they're notoriously hard to sell for a very good reason. New players who start with Entropia are are often highly averse to spending any money in this game. Everybody seems to think that this game, even though it's a real cash economy, that somehow you're going to log in, spend no money, and make $1 bajillion. And that is not how it works, because that is not how life works. And this is a real cash economy game, so it works like real life. If you want to start a business and you're willing to spend no money to do so, then your business probably isn't going to go very far. But if you're willing to start a business and spend some money to get that business off the ground, do some advertising, do some marketing, your business might actually go somewhere, right? Well, it's the same thing here. You can stay free to play, and there have been people who've been very successful as free to play players. Pro started completely free to play, has stayed completely free to play, and he now owns a shop at Medusa Bazaar on the 3rd level. I believe it's shop number 5. And it's Pro's Pill Shop. Go check it out. That's where I've been getting a lot of my pills that I use during Mayhem. It's pretty much one of my exclusive pill sources, because Pro's a good dude, and I want to help support people who have been able to make it against the odds in Entropia. But could he have done more if he had actually invested money in the game? Yes, probably so. With those skills, if he was able to go from free to play, never depositing $1, to owning a pill shop at Medusa Bazaar, I would say he probably would have gotten further faster if he deposited. Now, he might deposit in the future because it would allow him future expansion at a quicker rate. But needless to say, you can make money playing Entropia even in 2023 as a free-to-play player. However, it is very hard to sell stuff to new players because there are so many people that want to be free-to-play. And guys, let's just face it, being free-to-play and staying that way, it's a very, very rough road. You're highly, highly unlikely to ever get to the upper echelons of the game as a strictly free-to-play player without a whole bunch of real hardcore dedication. It is very difficult, and it usually takes most players a while before they get used to the concept of being willing to spend money on a video game. The best advice I give people is, if you were to play any other PC-based MMORPG, most of them are subscription-based, right? What would you pay per month for a similar game? Well, if the answer is $30-40, take $30-40 a month and make that what you spend on Entropia. You don't got to get stupid with it, but treat it as the entertainment that it is. And while you're doing that, get as much game knowledge as you can. That way you learn whenever there's an event where the cracks are in the system. They didn't want me going after 30 HP robots. They wanted me going after high-end robots. But because I have better results here, and because I had the game knowledge to know that I would have better results here, that's what I did, and it's resulted in a spectacular 23-hour run for me. I absolutely love the results that I've gotten so far. So, that being said, because most players are averse to spending money on the game, it makes it very, very difficult to sell new player gear. If you can sell it, it sells pretty well. However, the markup charts are horribly, horribly skewed. So, I'll give you guys an example. The B101 amps, a full TT B101 amp, is 0.08 PED, or only 8 PEC. That's like 8 cents out of $1. And that's full TT value. Well, the fair market price is 2 full TT B101 amps for 1 PED. I believe that's the fair market price last I checked, which has been a while. But that sounds about right. However, if you look at the actual markup chart for a B101 amp, it says that the markup is about 2,500%. Why is that? Well, that's because when you put it on auction, there is a minimum bid of 1 PED. So even though normally you can get them 2 for a PED, on auction the minimum bid is 1 PED. Meaning that the minimum you can pay if you buy it on auction is 2,500%, give or take. And that is why the markup charts, they don't track player-to-player trades. They only track auction data from the auctions. So the markup charts for stuff like Azuros, Rubios, and B101 amps, all that new player gear, it's going to be very skewed. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have any value. They do have value. They've still got considerable value. They just don't have the value that the markup charts reflect, which rightfully so, because it's just a glitch in the system. The TT value is so low, and the minimum bid being 1 ped, that there's no other way to fix that problem. So that being said, as a new player, I used to come here. I would hunt robots. I was getting skills. I was getting dodge. I was getting all my weapon skills up. And I was getting Rubios, Azuros, and B101 amps. I would go back to Camp Icarus, which is right down the road. For those of you who don't know, Orthos Oilfield is this orange, non-lootable PvP area here. The Camp Icarus teleporter is over here. It's about 1,200 kilometers, I think. Something like that, give or take. In fact, I'll tell you exactly. 1,600 kilometers. 1,633, actually, from where I'm standing right here, almost in the middle of Orthos. So it's really not that far. But I would take my Rubios and Azuros, and I would go back to Camp Icarus, and I would use them to hunt puny creatures, getting my skills up, and I would also try and sell them in the local chat there at Camp Icarus to other new players. So what I couldn't sell, I could always use, which was great, and I did manage to sell quite a few over those early days in-game, and I was able to cover a lot of the losses from my early runs doing that, which was just fantastic. And the oil came in handy because I could use the oil in my vehicles whenever I was flying around planet, whenever I was going out getting teleporters, or whenever I wanted to go to a new place or go to a specific place to hunt. So the oil from the robots came in super duper handy. And now this is an example of how we can use the markup via the oil, via the Rubios, via the Azuros, via the B101 amps, in order to cover those losses that we're incurring as we're doing the in-game activity. Because again, we know we're going to lose money hunting, right? However, we can make that up with markup. Now here's where the tricky part comes in. Finding the stuff that has the markup, that has the demand. And this goes back to game knowledge. You have to start studying the game and learn the game to figure out what loot actually has markup and demand. You've got to have both. You got to have good markup and you got to have good demand. Well, 101%, that's not good markup. 105%, that's not good markup. Good markup is 3, 4, 5, 600% markup. Good demand is I can sell as much as I can get as fast as I can get it. That is good demand. So it takes a while to figure out what items those are. It takes a while to learn what mobs those drop from. Once you've figured out what those items are and what mobs it drops from, then you can figure out your armor. Then you can figure out your weapon setup. Then you can start being profitable. But if you are out there just chasing swirls, hoping that at the end of the day you're going to TT everything and your ped card is going to be bigger than it was before, you are not going to last very long in Entropia. It's just not going to happen. Now, if you want to stay free to play and try your luck and see how far you can get, be my guest. Like I said, it has been done. Pro did an amazing job at it. I've known several other players who have stayed completely free to play and they made it work. However, for the vast majority of us, you don't have to invest a fortune, but if you will spend some amount of money in this game, you will learn that this game becomes much, much easier and much, much more fun whenever you're willing to actually spend a few dollars on it. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Maybe you would rather do this than go to a movie every week. Use the money that you would usually use for the price of a movie ticket and popcorn and drink. If you would rather play this than another online subscription-based MMO, use that money. But give yourself some amount of a budget. I know people in-game right now, true story, their avatar is just as old as mine. They've stayed completely free to play. And these people have level 30 plus defense skills. And they are still using TT weapons. Why? Because they refuse to spend money on this game. Now, if they have fun grinding out free defense skills at places like Zykion, and then turning around and chipping those skills out every now and then and selling them for a little bit and using that money to go hunt with, you know, more power to them. But my point being is you have to go after markup. You have to have game knowledge. And you have to understand that the hard part of starting out is you have no skills and you're going to be dealing with a lot of people who you will probably be trying to sell stuff to that also are very, very averse to spending money on the game. There are a lot of people at Camp Icarus right now that if I was to go over there and say, how many of you want to make $1 billion playing this game? Every one of them would say, oh, me, 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 me. And I would say, okay, who's willing to spend $5 on this game in the next 24 hours? And I would be hard-pressed to find one person willing to put their hand up. That is why we have so many people join this game and then quit. It's not that the game is the problem. The problem is people have a hard time adjusting to the idea that it becomes easier when you are willing to spend the money, when you get used to that concept. And they have a really hard time, apparently, adjusting to the idea that you're going to lose money. That way, Mindark has money to pay the bills, keep the lights on and the servers up. And you're going to have to go after that markup. Now, if you want to just throw your money down the toilet because you get a dopamine rush every time you get a swirl, good for you. That's fine. If that's what you like to do, that's what you like to do. If that's how you get your enjoyment out of it, not everybody wants to play as cost effectively as possible. Not everybody's goal is to make money. Some people's goal is just to get their name on the Hoff board or the all-time high board. There's a guy I know who has his name on the all-time high board 4 times and has lost money hand over fist. That's just his playstyle, but he will forever be immortalized on that all-time high board. So I made this video because I wanted to point out how I'm sure there were a lot of people that went to go do this mini Mayhem event with minimal game knowledge, and they're not really sure if they're even making money. They're not sure what the value of their Mayhem tokens are, or what their returns are, or what the value of the Unreal tokens and everything else added together is, so they couldn't tell you if they're making money or not. There's a lot of people that did this mini Mayhem that didn't come here to do these level 2 30 HP drones. They went after level 60 drone elites or drone exterminators. And they might not have gotten a fraction of the tokens that I got. I do not expect that I would have had these results had I been hunting anywhere else. There were other options. I could have done prototype defenders that had 130 HP. It would have taken me 4 times as long to kill, so I probably would have only gotten about 1/4 as many tokens. I could have done attackers, which have, you know, about 200, 300, 400 HP, but I might have only ended up with 1/10 as many tokens. And my goal was to come after the tokens. That's what I was willing to go for. That's why I was willing to do this event. So I love the event. I think it's been a ton of fun. We had a lot of people that were here earlier. Right now there's not that many people here, but for one of the first times that I've seen, Orthos Oilfield being a PvP area was just full of green dots. Everybody running around on top of everybody else. It was great fun. Everybody had a great time with it. And again, it was an accident. I don't think Mindark meant for us to be here shooting these little prototype drones, but it was a happy accident. In addition to that, I've been able to farm over 400 Mayhem tokens, which puts me ever so much closer to my goal. So that will help me out come Halloween. And I've been able to get them at a reduced cost, which will help me dollar cost average. In addition, I've also been able to get some oil, so I won't be having to buy oil for a while. And I've been able to farm a whole lot of new player weapons and amps, which I've actually given away quite a few. In addition to TTing almost, 150, 200 ped worth, I also was able to hand a few out to newer players and help them get started on their journey in Entropia. So that's always a good feeling too. So guys, I will leave it there for today. I'm just really happy with the overall results of this mini Mayhem. This is the kind of thing I would like to see them do, but I think first they need to understand why this worked so well, because it was a happy accident. And if they would allow more happy accidents to happen like this, then I would be a bigger fan of things like mini Mayhem. So if you did mini Mayhem, put it in the comments below. Let me know where you were, what you went after, what your results were. Did you get any cool loots while you were at it? Did you get any rare tokens? How many regulars did you get? What about Unreals? Just put your results below. Let me know what mob you were after, how much HP it had, where you were at, all that good stuff. Guys, head over to earnped.com, because when you earn, we earn. It's by far the best way you guys can help support us. Just use the links on earnped.com to go to hideout.tv. Hideout will see that you came from EarnPed, and it will automatically add us as a redemption option for your Hideout points. Guys, we ask you the same thing that every YouTuber does. Hit those 3 buttons, because it only takes you a second. You only have to hit the subscribe button 1 time. It's absolutely free. You only have to hit the bell icon 1 time to be notified of new content. It's absolutely free. And if you hit the like video on every single video, there's always a hater out there trying to hit that dislike button. So it really helps us mitigate that. And when you do those 3 things, YouTube gives us more exposure. There are people right now in this game, because we had friends, we had followers who hit those 3 buttons. They took the 1 second it takes to do it. And because of that, YouTube showed this video or a similar video to people who play real cash economy games, PC games, MMOs. And those people had never heard of Entropia, but they saw the videos, they started watching the channel, they learned about the game, then they downloaded it, and now they're an active part of in-game societies. They buy stuff off auction all the time. You might even know somebody or have dealt with somebody in-game who came because our subscribers were willing to hit those 3 buttons for us. So it makes a big impact for us and for the channel, but it makes a big impact for the game, and it might indirectly or directly make a big impact on you. You might be selling stuff right now to somebody that's only here because you hit those buttons in the past. So if you haven't hit them yet, please do hit that like button on every single video. We really appreciate it, and it helps everybody. It's everybody's way to be able to contribute, and it means a whole lot. So we greatly appreciate it. I'll leave it there for today, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed this mini mayhem. We've got a lot more content coming for you. Till then, sip, sip, smack, smack. Y'all know the rest. Take care, Stevies.